And can you talk a little bit about other forms of detox, like intermittent fasting, etc.? Does it have a role?
I think detox is definitely a very, very important concept, especially from an Ayurvedic medicine, because whether we like it or not, there's a constant shift and change happening in the body, in accounts with the change of rhythms of the nature, as you're growing old, or the way the cells are behaving. Everything is happening in the body because of the way you are eating food. You're storing some of the residual impurities, some of the psycho-emotional impurities. These all get stuck into your cells and tissues at some point. The nature undergoes cleanses also. So every change of season, if at all you are able to do a gentle detox for yourself, where you start paying attention to what you're eating, how you're cleansing, how you are using all the different pathways to eliminate the impurities, whether it's stool, urine, sweat, even breathing, all of those things are purging and eliminating those things. So the concept from an Ayurvedic point of view is that whether we like it or not, we are accumulating these subtle or grosser impurities in the body. We need to loosen them. They are not always necessarily present in the gut. This is a common misconception that we have, that we just do some hose piping and it'll come out. It's not there. It has left its place and it has gone and lodged into your cells and tissues. I like to call them as issues in your tissues sometime. And these are metabolic impurities, these are residual toxins, variety of different things. And some of these are water soluble, some of these are fat soluble. So Ayurveda uses variety of different concoctions, herbal teas, amapachana herbs to increase the agni, to have a lighter state of digestion, to do some fasting, to skip meals and eat lighter foods for certain amount of time, making sure you are taking certain herbs which are increasing your digestive abilities, getting rid of ama. You are ingesting some oil in the morning, which is helping loosen these impurities and toxic at a cellular level, like saponifications. These are some lipid-soluble toxins and impurities that are loosened. And then you start purging them and releasing them with some of the Ayurvedic Panchakarma techniques. So this is a very age-old series of techniques that we use for detoxification. The most important concept of Panchakarma is you want to detoxify the body without harming the cells and tissues, but giving them a new lease of life. So you want to separate the impurities without damaging the innate fabric of the body itself. So you do it gently and you do it properly, you will feel fabulous and your cells will feel absolutely replenished and recharged.
Have you discussed ama and...
we are going to talk about that whole lecture tomorrow, about physiological purification and Panchakarma.
Okay. So you'll talk about ama and you'll talk about...
We have talked about ama so far, yeah.
Okay. So we'll skip that right now, but ama is what toxins in your body that build up as a result of toxic relationship, toxic environment, toxic food, toxic job, anything that you have that feels toxic will actually accumulate as toxins. So,
and these are some metabolic impurities that they initially start in the digestive system, in the gut, but slowly they start leaking out. As you were talking about this leaky gut syndrome, this is called as ama visha, or the toxic ama that starts percolating out of the intestinal walls and going deeper in the cells and tissues and creating either an inflammatory response combined with pitta or creating depletion. So when you talk about candida, yeast infection, inflammatory or irritable bowel disease, leaky gut syndrome, these are all manifestations of ama in your system.
This morning I spoke about the microbiome, which has become such a big issue of discussion in all of the literature that I'm looking at right now. And so I was speaking to my yoga teachers in New York, and even here there are all these asanas and bandhas and kriyas that actually influence vagal tone, and not only increase heart rate variability, decrease gut. What are your views on gut health, microbiome, and particularly these non-invasive techniques to change, whether it's Muladhara Bandha or Rudana Bandha, or what is this called, Jala Bandha.
Jalandhar Bandha.
These are very effective ways
They
of increasing
they
cat
are-
cow and so on in the various asanas.
Means I think the whole discussion of microbiome is very interesting, and from an Ayurvedic perspective, there's a Vedic expression where they say that is it your body or their body? Are you living in their body or they are living in your body?
The bacteria.
The bacterias. And are you making their life easy? If not, they will make your life very difficult. So it's a very symbiotic association. And the way the symbiotic association works is that if you're eating carrots from the farm, if you are eating food which is growing in the soil, which is containing that quality of good quality mud and earth and water and the elements of nature in there, where the microbiome is really alive in those food. As that food is getting very sterile, pesticides, petroleum, very cosmetic looking food where even the bugs don't want to eat that food, it doesn't have the microbiome. So slowly you are eradicating some of this gut health yourself. Even water, means sometimes we see that people are drinking ultra clean and ultra pure water with this reverse osmosis and everything. And then you have to go and buy these ionized minerals, which is nothing but mud, and you put it back in the water and be happy with drinking that water. So in the olden days, the wells or the earthen pot that we used to drink water, it used to contain some subtle degree of mud and minerals in the water as such. So we are making our atmosphere very sterile, even with everything else. So the food doesn't contain that. So we need to really go back to even walking barefoot sometimes and exposing ourselves to some of these friendly bacteria so that we start boosting our immune system, allowing them to co-host with us more easily. And secondly, we want to really retrain ourselves, our body and our gut health so that we are eliminating the impurities properly. One of the common things that we often talk in Ayurveda, and we were joking with them this morning, that having a good quality well-formed stool is such an important question in Ayurvedic assessment. And sometimes it's a little bit frowned after, but something which is so well-formed, and you talk about this fecal implant and the implant of the microbiome at times, so that is a sign that everything is working properly. That's why in the morning you really have a good morning and feel good about it. And so I think this is all the terminal state where the process of digestion and how this microbiome in your gut is behaving to that state. So another important concept is when some of these gut-friendly bacteria and you are actually eating food which is allowing gently to nourish the physiology. When we talk about certain grains, when we talk about certain foods which are naturally growing and they still contain the life form, they are more lively in order to supporting the growth of that microbiome in our body as such. When the foods are really away from that source, it doesn't do that. What you were telling about this whole concept of yoga and breathing and bandha and everything, it's actually allowing the body to reset some of those things. Even this whole concept of putting drops in the nose, putting drops in the ears, this is all resetting the microbiome where it's not only in the gut, but in every opening and every orifice in the body.
So last year, I was looking this up, last year the probiotic industry was $31 billion. Next year, it's projected to be $8 trillion in the United States alone, because everybody is finding out about the microbiome. And the best source, natural source of probiotics would be dahi, yogurt?
Dahi, yogurt,
lassi,
buttermilk, lassi, fermented foods, pickles, vinegars, some of the sour cabbages, things like that. And many of these things, fermented food where you sow grains and let them ferment and they rise up and you make pancakes out of it or things like that. Those are actually healthy things where you are gently fermenting them and resetting the microbiome through those foods.
kimchi,
Kimchi,
kombucha,
kombucha,
all of those, and the Russian drink with the kefir,
Yeah,
which is
kefir.
similar to lassi, right?
Lassi,
These are all probiotics. Then there are what are called prebiotics, which are high fiber. So like in radish, like in broccoli, like in anything which has high fiber, the bacteria like to eat them up. So then the prebiotics are converted to probiotics. And now there's a suggestion that we can create something called a symbiotic, which means the natural probiotics, high fiber, and something like Triphala, which would be a perfect combination to create something totally new. We could call it a symbiotic.
Symbiotic association.
So that's where our research is going right now.
And even ground flax seeds and variety of different fibers, soluble and insoluble, contains the perfect mix of pro as well as prebiotic if you use it properly. And I think that's one of the biggest missing link in a standard American diet, which is lack of fiber. So once that binding starts happening, it starts resetting the microbial patterns.
What about oils like primrose oil, olive oil, coconut oil,
the raw,
sesame
cold-pressed,
oil?
extra virgin oils, and these are all very earthy oils.
You swallow them,
replenished.
right?
You swallow them, you eat them, or you mix them with the food. You don't really cook them or warm them, but raw, cold-pressed oils are absolutely nourishing for the physiology.
And we now know that emotions affect the microbiome too.
They do. They do.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about rasayan. Have you spoken about rasayan?
We haven't yet. We haven't.
What does the word mean, rasayan?
Rasayana simply means rejuvenation. The word rasa is the first tissue, and starting from rasa all the way to ojas, which nourishes all the layers of the physiology, is called as rasayana, which has a great rejuvenating effect, which is responsible for reversal of aging or slowing down of the aging process, gives boost and vitality to not only the physical structures in the organs and organ system, but at a psycho-emotional state, it actually makes you more happy, well-rested, and a little bit more settled. And that whole quality of rasayana is something that you can cultivate through a proper routine, through a good effective detoxification, and some smart, intelligent herbs and foods.
And you were talking about that when I came in.
Yeah, we were
mentioning
talking about
the
some of
popular-
these food like amalaki, which is one of the most revered rasayana from an Ayurvedic point of view. It's called as fruit for immortality, which it contains 5 different tastes. So we talk about 6 different tastes. So amalaki contains 5 different tastes. Except salt, it contains all the 5 tastes in there. So it has a very broad spectrum appeal on balancing doshas itself. And most importantly, these are so smart and intelligent herbs. They know exactly how to communicate. It's good for liver, it's good for heart, good for eyes, good for skin, good for hair. So there are different pathways, and you can't really dissect and understand exactly what is in that fruit which is doing it. It's doing it all together. So it's the total sum of the parts, as you were talking this morning, is exactly what these intelligent foods are. And they are something which are more commonly used as rasayana.
Did you speak about Brahmi at all?
We haven't yet.
You
We haven't
haven't.
yet.
So you know the word Brahmi, Gotukola, which is another herb. The word Brahmi comes from Brahman, which means consciousness. It's also the origin of the word cerebrum, or brain. And it's a brain tonic. And
It's a brain tonic. It's an adaptogen. It's a known adaptogen. So it creates and cultivates a state that you can effectively manage your stress and adapt to given different situations, whatever is happening on your physical needs, on psycho-emotional needs. So especially with the mind and the body working hand in hand together. So these are the junction point where these herbs work. And they are very smart and very intelligent. So it'll know exactly what to do for a Vata person to calm their anxiety. It'll know exactly in a Pitta person to reduce their anger and hostility. And it'll go into a Kapha person will work very differently on their brain and their mindset. So that's why we call them
adaptogens.
as adaptogens.
They help your body adapt to stresses. I think it would be a great idea if people can at least remember the qualities of maybe 5 to 10 of the most important herbs that are used in Ayurveda.
We have given them in their handout. We talked about amalaki, which is the fruit for immortality and rejuvenation. There's a very classical Ayurvedic formation like Chavanprash, which is commonly used for anti-aging, for rejuvenation. We have this drink called Zri, which is also good for that. Then ashwagandha is another beautiful adaptogen, which is Videnia somnifera. The word somnifera means it helps you relax, unwind, induces sleep. So it's a great adaptogen, which also gives and works like an anabolic steroid, actually gives you tonifying your strength and muscles, gives the strength of a horse. So it's very
And
poetic.
very, these days, being used for Alzheimer's a lot.
It's used for Alzheimer's also. So ashwagandha is a great thing, and we use it for students when they are trying to memorize something or remember something. So ashwagandha is a great herb, very commonly used for that. It's also good to regulate testosterone and male sexual function. Another rasayana for women is shatavari, which is
the root of asparagus.
Asparagus racemosus, which is a women's tonic, I would say. And it's again a cooling herb, regulates the menstrual cycle, minimizes symptoms for menopausal syndrome. It's actually good for men and women both, but it's considered to be more good for women's sexual tonic, libido, vitality. Shata means 100 and vari means husband. So you will have a vitality that you will be able to support 100 husbands.
And shatavari, therefore, it actually, when you analyze this asparagus root, it is phytoestrogens, which means estrogens derived from plants, from the light of the sun, the original estrogens.
I was telling this to one of my lady patient, and she said she has only one husband who has 100 split personalities.
Okay, let's finish off by these three principles: samana, vishesha, and panchakarma, and patya. Just a few words.
Yeah, I think samanya vishesha is samanya means similarity, and vishesha means dissimilarity. So if you are eating foods which contain the quality and the taste which are similar to certain doshas, then you will get the tonifying or increasing effect. So similarity increases, dissimilarity decreases. So as I was telling you, if you eat something cold, heavy, soft, smooth, sticky, you will become cold, heavy, soft, smooth, and sticky. So in order to balance that, you will have to bring something.
And your personality will reflect that.
Also.
Cloying, attached, sticky.
Possessive, greedy, and things like that.
Greed. So it's not just the body, it's the mind that's affected too.
So you need to bring the opposite quality. So if it's heavy, then you bring the light. So vishesha is the opposite quality. So at your own level, you should be able to calibrate and feel that. Like when you're sitting in these chairs, you feel like going out and having a stretch and getting some fresh air. It's just the opposite quality than what you were doing. So every time you feel something, you need to learn how to bring in the opposite principle to balance. And I was telling them about joking, half of the time I listen to patients what they do and tell them exactly not to do that afterwards, because the diseases are coming from what they do. So samanya vishesha is a very simple treatment protocol. The other thing that you were talking about is patya. So there's a very wonderful aphorism in Ayurveda where we say if you're following the rules of diet and behavior, there is no need of medicine. And if you're not following the rules of diet and behavior, there is no use of medicine. So what is beneficial for you and what is not beneficial for you, you should clearly understand. I gave you the example with this guy with gastric ulcer, and what he was doing was not beneficial for him. So he needs to change some of those things which are good for him as well as his disease, so that you can start establishing the balance together properly. So selecting the right herbs, selecting the right food according to the person, according to the disease, according to the body constitution, according to the stage and the phase of the disease, all of this is a very complex information. You have to meet the people, understand them, imagine where they are in their grand scheme of things in their life, and create a protocol which is totally based to bring in those opposite qualities to balance the imbalances of the doshas. So I think Ayurveda is a science of life, and it is looking at your life in a broader sense and helping you really understand what you need to be doing in order to balance yourself. It's actually every session helps you teach and learn something about your own self so that you start calibrating and managing your own health at that level.
Finally, this morning, I mentioned all the research we are doing on meditation, but now on the Perfect Health program, which is basically 1 week of Panchakarma. Just say a few words and then...
Well, and I think this is an interesting program. Means the self-directed biological transformation initiative that we talk about is very similar to what ancient Ayurvedic literature talked about Kaya Kalpa. Kaya means body and Kalpa means transformation. So it's changing the very innate building blocks and the functioning of the physiology within 7 days, within 14 days, within 21 days. So even though the body looks same, but when you look at the blood markers, when you look at everything else, with the detoxification, with the replenishment of the right kind of food, with everyday yoga, with everyday meditation, spending time in nature, being mindful and being self-referral, even those 7 days will actually shift your attention inwards and will cultivate a state of greater health and well-being. So I think when we talk about a perfect health program, it's exactly your ability to do something for yourself and pay attention to in which your body starts responding.
Then, of course, classically, and there was the extended Kaya Kalpa when people went into silence.
That's correct.
They went into a dark room, and they were in Kaya Kalpa for several months sometimes. And after it, their biological age had changed by
Completely shifted.
30 years, 20, 30 years.
And
We haven't tried that because I don't think we have any candidates for that.
And I think these 7 days will actually give you a clear glimpse what can
is
happen,
possible.
what is possible in 21 days. And from classical literature, it's very poetic where they talk about how you feel and exactly, but this is definitely a possibility that you can slow down the aging process significantly with just this conscious attention, even for that
By
many
several
days.
decades, 20 years, 30 years. Well, that was very enlightening. Thank you, Dr. Suhas. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Fantastic, those two men on the stage together, isn't it? Are you full? Full of information? Did you get enough for today? I think you did. I have a feeling you did. So, some of you are fleeing, but we are going to stay here, some of us, I hope most of us, and meditate. So we'll have a relatively short meditation, but before we leave this evening, we will have our meditation together, and then we'll go out for the evening. So take a moment, prepare yourself. You can set your things aside. If you want to stand up, do a little stretch, but just for a minute, and then we'll get into our meditation so we can head out to our next activity. So I'm just going to share a few things, few words while you're stretching. I wanted to show you Dr. Suhas's book, The Hot Belly Diet, so you see what that looks like. Wonderful book. Recently published this book, probably a year ago. And then